What up, folks? Once again, it's your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. Ahmaud Arbery, here we go again. Another national trial going to get nationwide coverage of whites killing blacks. For some reason, this shit always makes the news, but is this even racially motivated? Is he racially charged even at all, or are they making too much out of this? Before we get into all of that, I'm asked that you do what I always ask you to do. Go ahead and punch that subscribe button. Helps a brother out. Feel free to hit the like button. At the end of the video, if you don't like what I got to say, feel free to hit the dislike button. But drop a comment in the comment section and let me know why, and we can chop it up there. Ahmaud Arbery, here we go again. What's so special about this case? Well, I'll just go ahead and give you the quick details on the case if you're not aware of what happened down in Georgia. This happened on February 23rd of 2020, so of 2020, last year, a little bit over a year ago. You had a father and son, that would be Greg and Travis McMichael, and you had their neighbor, William Bryan. All of these guys are on trial now for murder. What did they do? Well, Ahmaud Arbery, a black guy, was jogging through their neighborhood, and he went into a construction site. The home was being either renovated or built from scratch. There's materials in the home, just like any other construction site. And there is a video camera in the site, a security camera that recorded him in the inside of the open property, looking around, staring at shit, whatever the case may be. He then continued his jog through the neighborhood, and the owner of the property, which was not in town, phoned the father, the McMichaels, and let them know somebody was on the property or whatever the case may be. The McMichaels then grabbed their weapons, jumped in a pickup truck, and chased down Ahmaud Arbery. And if you look at the video footage, and I'll link it in the description, but there is video footage of the shooting taking place and Ahmaud Arbery losing his life. But the father and son were attempting to stop and accost Ahmaud Arbery, potentially detain him for police or whatever. And when they had him at gunpoint. I mean, they literally jumped out of the pickup truck with a shotgun in their hand, and he charged at him, got shot, died, and that's the case. Now, there is a third gentleman I mentioned before, their neighbor, William Bryan. He's being charged in connection with this also. He followed in a chase vehicle and recorded the entire event. There's a whole lot that I'll bring up in this conversation. Now, I'm literally speechless about this. And I will tell you, when it comes to the racial element and things like that, this has a lot of similarities to the George Zimmerman case and the case of Kyle Rittenhouse, a trial that's going to be upcoming in the future as well, of Kyle Rittenhouse in Wisconsin. And why do I say these things are similar? Because they're vigilantes. You're observing what you believe is a crime taking place, and your response is fucking way outrageous overkill. In all three of these cases, George Zimmerman, Kyle Rittenhouse, and now these three gentlemen all saw what they believed was a crime taking place, and they all decided to go grab a gun and chase down the individuals involved in it. I just think it's insane. Kyle Rittenhouse decided to go to a fucking riot with an AR-15. I mean, I'm not going to go into whether what these gentlemen did was right or wrong, or were they not trying to be neighborhood heroes, if you want to look at it that way. I'm just going to put it this way. You're taking upon an incredible amount of liability when you grab a firearm to go defend some shit that is not yours. In all three of these cases, these people are grabbing guns to defend shit that is not theirs, and they ultimately end up killing someone. Now, whether you think the killings were righteous, justified, self-defense, or whatever, like I said, you're taking upon an incredible amount of liability to even put yourself in this situation to begin with, because you're defending shit that's not yours. You're choosing to put yourself in a violent environment, and that's what ultimately happens. Now, as we know from history, George Zimmerman was acquitted of his case. Some believe Kyle Rittenhouse will be acquitted, and some think that these three gentlemen will also be acquitted. Whether that happens or not, let's just be real. The shit that they're going through, being charged with murder, being arrested in the rain, the legal fees, being plastered all over the news, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. George Zimmerman thought he was defending, Trayvon Martin from breaking in a house in the neighborhood. This case with Ahmaud Arbery is the exact same. These three gentlemen thought they were defending a open construction site from potentially being burgled. And Kyle Rittenhouse was also in the belief that he was defending properties from being looted during a riot. None of this shit is worth what they all are going through or have went through from this. I mean, George Zimmerman, I'm sure his whole life has been completely rearranged after going through a fucking murder trial. I mean, just think about how long you have to sit up. What is it usually? Between the time you get arrested and the time you go to trial, there's usually at least a year. You got to sit there day after day and wonder what the hell is going to happen to me if I'm found guilty, how much time I'm going to get in prison. It's just not worth the heartache, folks, to go defend shit that's not yours. I just don't understand how you could have that much vigilantism in you to go and do something like this. Now, there's a difference if somebody's breaking your shit or somebody's putting your family at risk or something like that. But when you're talking about, like with George Zimmerman, where you're chasing somebody because you think he's burglaring something, this is a case that's turning out like that as well. Because Ahmaud Arbery, for the fact is he was videotaped in that site. So there's no doubt he was trespassing. But they chased him down because they believed that he matched a suspect that was involved in a string of burglaries. Now, if you end up shooting this guy, you better find some stolen shit on him. And there was nothing on this guy. The only thing they have on him is that he was inside of an open construction site staring at shit. There's no video of him picking anything up or anything. I mean, there's a lot of construction sites you see where you can just walk on a site and look around. Is it trespassing? Probably so, particularly if they have a no trespassing sign up or something like that. You're on property that is owned by somebody else. But once you're off of that property, you're no longer trespassing, and the owner does not have the right to chase you through the neighborhood to detain you for the trespassing charges you did. Now, we can argue, well, he's defending the property, whatever. All in all, I go back to my original statement. It's dumb as fuck. It's taken on an incredible amount of liability for, what did you really think he stole off of an open construction site? Maybe a drill or, maybe a power tool or something. But when you see him running down the street, it'd be pretty obvious he doesn't have anything major on him at that point. You're not going to steal something small like an iPhone or something from an unused construction site because that kind of shit is not there. It's going to be big stuff. And when you see him running down the street, it's pretty clear he doesn't have anything like that on him. So what's the purpose of jumping out on this guy with a rifle in your hand or with a shotgun in your hand? It just, I don't know. Like I said, it cries out of stupidity and vigilantism to even do something like that. And that's even if you think that he deserved it for trespassing or going into something that wasn't his. It's just the amount of liability these gentlemen has taken on is insane. So why does this have a racial component to it? As usual, anytime you have a white on black murder, beating, whatever the case may be, it just brings up all of the old wounds of history, and that is there was never any justice for a black victim when the perpetrator was white. And even in 2021, a lot of people believe that that is still possible, still happens in some cases, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I know there's right-wingers watching the channel and they don't want to hear me bringing up history and things and shit like that. But that is our history, is that in fact, there were laws for quite a while that even if you were black, you were not even legally allowed to testify against a white person. That's a freaking law. That was actually law. And I'm not talking about 200 years ago. I'm talking about in the 1950s and 60s. You could not testify against a white person in several different states. So if a white person walked up and punched you in the face, unless another white person reported that assault to the police, they wouldn't even take down what you had to say because you're black, accusing a white person of doing something. So it has roots in history. And of course, then there's the Rodney King case, which is a lot more modern, where once again, you see, I don't know how many white guys are out there witnessing the beating, but we know 4 were involved in it, and they found those guys not guilty as well. So you do have a lot of modern day black people that believe that they're not going to get justice if they're victimized by a white person. We can go back and forth about it, but that's kind of what we're dealing with. And unfortunately, this case is probably going to be just as big in the news as George Floyd, or at least fairly close. Now, coming from yours truly, this is not George Floyd. I don't think it's the same. First of all, I think that police, their job is to serve and protect. So when they abuse their authority, they should be held to a higher standard than a citizen abusing their rights or whatever the case may be. Because when you do something negative, or when you commit assault or a crime against a police officer, you're held to a higher standard in regards to how you're going to be punished and dealt with in the courts. So when they violate the law, it should be the same thing, because we make the rules special for them because they are designed to uphold the law. So when they do not actually measure up to their own oath, they should be held to a higher account than, John Public Citizen that does the same thing. It should be a difference to me. So what do we think is going to potentially happen with Ahmaud Arbery? Well, there's a few things we got to first see that way out, and that is the jury selection. They just began the jury selection this week, so that could take up to a month. They're going through, sifting through hundreds of potential jurors. Who hasn't seen the case? Who hasn't heard about the case? Most people have, I'm assuming. So you have to weigh that, and then you have to ask them questions about how they feel about race, how they feel about Black Lives Matter, and all of that bullshit. So we haven't seen the jury yet. You get a jury of all white males. I'm gonna probably say that it's looking really good for those guys. You get a jury of all black males. I'm gonna say it's probably looking good for Ahmaud Arbery's family. Now that's not gonna happen. It's gonna be a mixture. It's gonna be women. There's gonna be whites and blacks on the jury. But I'm just simply saying that the selection of the jury is going to make a big deal in regards to how this case ends up, because I've talked to a lot of right-wingers who instantly thought that, hey, look, he's trespassing. They jump out of the vehicle. He's aiming, they jump out of the vehicle on him with a rifle in their hand. And instead of him complying or putting his hands in the air, he charges at him and gets shot. It's self-defense, So I've seen that. So there are a lot of people that believe that what happened to Ahmaud Arbery was his own fault. So don't believe that it's just a cut and dry case. Now I will say also too, in regards to George Floyd, because I debate and talk to right-wingers all day long, there are right-wingers that believe that what happened to George Floyd was his own fault too. There are plenty of people who were shouting to release Derek Chauvin, the cop that's been convicted in that case, saying that he had done nothing wrong. So that's going to happen. I mean, I'm pretty sure that there were people who thought the cops that beat up Rodney King were doing nothing wrong, which is why they ultimately were found not guilty. So there's never going to be a case where everybody is going to be on the same side when it comes to this racial stuff. It just isn't. I don't know of any case in my lifetime, my 40 plus years of life, I can't think of any racial case where I didn't talk to some right-wingers who thought that the black person that's pleading racism, or the deceased person that their family's pleading racism. I've always talked to some right-wingers who thought that person that perished or was beaten up or was arrested probably deserved what happened to him. So that's just something about politics for some reason, is that the right and the left have a different take on things. And this is also probably why a lot of African Americans don't necessarily want to associate with the right, is because they do find these cases to be justifiable a lot more often than the left does. So I just wanted to go through this case real quick because this is what's going to be coming up. I'm sure I'll be making more videos on it. It'll be all over the nightly news as they go through it, just like the George Floyd case was. The situation I do have some serious concern with is for that third guy, not the father and son duo driving a pickup truck and running around with rifles, but the third gentleman who drove the chase car and filmed the killing on video. What the hell was the purpose of that? I mean, okay, you got two guys going to detain what is potentially a burglar with guns in their hands. Why would you film your friends, because they were all friends, why would you film your friends taking on that kind of liability? I mean, you know they're making a dumbass mistake. You know, even though they're trying to defend the neighborhood, they're trying to do what they think is right. This, like I said before, the gamble in regards to liability, you got to look at what do I stand to gain versus what I could potentially lose. What are you going to stand to gain? Well, the guy's property that you're defending, thank you. You know, thanks for holding him for the police. Maybe he'll buy you a beer. If you're lucky, maybe he'll take you out for dinner and get you a steak. What do you stand to lose? Your fucking life. I mean, these guys may be facing 20 years in prison or some ridiculous shit. They're going to probably lose their Second Amendment rights indefinitely. I mean, it's dumb. I don't care if you think it's a racial issue or not. Notice I'm not even necessarily weighing on which side I feel as far as race and any of that stuff is concerned. I'm just here to say what these guys did was dumb as fuck. It just wasn't well thought out. Now, if the fact that Ahmaud Arbery was a black man running through their neighborhood made them act more aggressively, quicker, stronger, whatever the case may be, then yeah, that would be racism. But we don't know that. And that may not come out in the court case. That may not come out in the trial. And I could care less about that. All I'm just simply saying is, if you see somebody in your neighborhood and you think they're doing something wrong, jumping up and grabbing a fucking rifle and chasing them throughout the neighborhood is taking on a lot of liability for what you may potentially be doing for your neighborhood, particularly if the stuff you're defending is not even yours. And that's the case here. You're defending a fucking construction site. Does the homeowner not have insurance? I mean, is it really worth putting how much money is this family paying on legal fees? How much potential earnings have they lost? Did they lose their jobs? I mean, they were arrested. Did they serve time in jail? I believe the answer to that is yeah, they served some time in jail. Like, I can't even come up with any devil's advocate scenario to say that there was a legitimate or that it was a smart reason for them to do what they did. It's just dumb no matter how you turn the puzzle. What do you folks think? I can't ramble on enough about this because if these gentlemen or friends of mine or relatives of mine or family of mine, it's just fucking dumb for you to go through the neighborhood and do this. And of course, the homeowner, the guy who owned the construction site, who was not in town, who was watching Ahmaud enter the site on video, immediately threw these three gentlemen under the bus. Immediately stated, I didn't tell him to go chase this guy down with a fucking gun through the neighborhood. He don't want nothing to do with that, so it's all for naught. It was just a dumb outcome. What do you think? You think I'm hitting this one on the head? What do you think? How do you think it's going to turn out? What do you think should have happened? What would you have did if you were friends with the owner of that construction site across the street from your house and you saw somebody going into his house and you were a gun owner? Would you chase him through the neighborhood and potentially try to detain him for police? I mean, after all, he fit the description, at least they said he did, of a burglar that was burglarizing properties in the neighborhood. How would you have reacted? Let me know in the comments section. I would love to hear from you guys on this. Like I said, I respond to any and all comments. Like what I had to say, give your brother a thumbs up. If you think this is bullshit, feel free to hit the dislike button, but drop me a comment. Let me know. Once again, it's your boy Tim, the Handsome Liberal. I will talk to you in the next video.